It's week 3 of the NFL season, and whether you've got the makings of a juggernaut looking to go 3-0, or you're 1-1 and you're desperately looking for a Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel replacement in your lineup this week, we've got you covered because on today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we have the only wide receiver rankings you will need to win your fantasy matchup in week 3. I'm your host, Sean Moran, and I'm joined by my co-host, good friend, and fellow knower of ball, Aiden Holler. Aiden, that was kind of a snoozer of a Thursday night football game, but it was nice to see the Jets offense get on track. Lots of positive texts from Keegan in the group chat, even though he's not able to join us tonight. What did you think of that game?
Yeah, that kind of played out exactly how I thought it would. Jets pretty much dominated from start to finish. Rodgers looked sharp. Not a lot of Garrett Wilson, which I think is going to increase as the year goes on. It was the Conklin show, the Allen Lazard show, the running back duo of Brees and Braylon Allen. But yeah, it was fine. I kind of figured the game was going to go about kind of how it went. It was a little more lopsided than I thought it would be. But yeah, that's divisional matchup. Patriots, Jets defense. Like, yeah, it's about what we were expecting. But I don't know. What'd you think? How'd you enjoy the game tonight?
The Mondresance was put on pause. It was firmly
Did he hurt his
put on
finger,
pause.
or he left the game
Yeah,
for a while?
he stiff-armed somebody and came off the field afterwards. I mean, a stiff-armed. He's got his finger caught in a face mask. I think he hurt his pinky.
It was
And then basically, by the time he came back in, the game was over.
Yeah,
like,
what? Yeah, Jerome Mayo, one wise Mondre back in the game too. And what are we doing with Drake May on the final drive? Like, none of that made any sense. Like, I don't know. That was some puzzling coaching. Yeah, when I saw Mondre back in, I was like, I don't think he had played since the second quarter at that point. They were down 21 points when he came back in. So
that's how the Jets play, man. Like, if they score on every drive, Rodgers just holds onto the ball. Like, their drives go for like 8-9 minutes. They're just...
It's pretty boring to watch. I said it was like Big Ten football.
0. Yeah, he snaps the ball at 0 every time. Like, it's good football. Like,
if
to
you're
win.
A Jets fan,
but yeah, for fantasy, I mean, again, Brees is going to score 20 fantasy points per game. Like, I think he's hit 18 or more each week he's played. So he's been ultra consistent. Braylon Allen looks awesome as like a 1-2 punch. And yeah, I'm not too worried about Garrett Wilson. After the game, Aaron Rodgers said, he said, because they asked him about his rapport with Allen Lazard, the sideline reporter. And he's like, yeah, Allen and I have a great rapport, but man, when Five and I get on track, it's going to be special. So I think it's coming. If you're a Garrett Wilson owner, stay patient. Rodgers isn't necessarily pushing the ball downfield, but this is the best he's looked, bar none, since he's came back from injury. I think green days are ahead. If you're a Garrett Wilson drafter, you're just going to have to stay patient for the meantime.
It's brutal right now, man. It's brutal.
Well, what he scored like 15 points tonight? He got in the end zone
with like 25 yards. It was an absolute. It was a sludge, but we got there. We got home. It was a great touchdown. It was the Conklin show on offense.
Christian Gonzalez is an eraser. It's like a Surtain matchup. When you see Christian Gonzalez and the Patriots on it's like the wide receiver one might have a little trouble.
You still just want to see your alpha, produce a bit more than that. But some of it was on Rodgers too, so we don't need to bash on Garrett Wilson. He gave us a good finish today.
It's coming. Yeah. It's coming if you're a Wilson owner. So
better days are ahead.
Enough about Garrett Wilson at Thursday Night Football. We're talking wide receivers for week 3. I've ranked the top. I think I
saw
54.
Yeah,
I think I got 54. We'll see if I have an additional one. If we have like a Gus Bus hiding like I had it for the running back. So the episode is pretty straightforward for today.
You do.
I have 55.
Yeah, Dobbs is a BOGO. We got
okay. I've got a BOGO. I've got a BOGO.
243s. We got 2 43s.
Okay. So I've got. There it is.
No, just kidding. There's no 42.
Okay. Cool. Amazing. I've ranked the top 55 wide receivers. I've broken them into 7 tiers. I'm going to take you all through each tier, and I'm going to share guys that I'm higher or lower on versus Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings. We're recording this Thursday. We don't have all the injury data. Some guys might be playing, some might not. We don't have Keenan Allen in the rankings, back-to-back DMPs, but we do have T. Higgins in the rankings. We got eliminated today. So we'll see how this all shakes out in terms of the rankings, but keep that in mind. We're recording this Thursday night after Thursday Night Football. So final injury stuff will come in later in the week. If you have any questions, always feel free. Drop them in the comments below. Aiden is always going through them and always responding. So shout out Aiden. We appreciate you standing 10 toes down for the mean team.
Sir.
So this is episode 2 of us rolling out our RTM score is what I've labeled it, but it's essentially just a weighted ranking of a wide receiver's expected fantasy points through 2 weeks, their production, their Vegas implied team total, and the matchup they have against the secondaries in terms of the amount of fantasy points per game they give up to the wide receiver position. So we're rolling this out. It's fun. It's fun to blame something on the model where I had Mondre high. It's not my fault. It's the model's fault. You got to blame the model on the Mondresance here. We didn't take into account how bad the Patriots offense could have been. So we're always tinkering. We're tailoring this model. So bear with us here, but we're having a lot of fun rolling this out. And again, if you have any feedback on it, feel free to drop it in the comments below. But before we get to the wide receivers, this is probably the first time people have discovered the regression to the mean channel. YouTube suggested them. They saw the thumbnail. They clicked on it. Aiden, if this is the first time someone has watched us, or maybe they watched us a couple times, but they're still kind of on the fence about what they do in terms of how they're going to approach this channel, what should the people do at home?
What you should do is, just take a seat, kick your feet up, enjoy the show. We got some good banter, some good analytics, nothing too dorky, don't worry. At the end of it, up to you to decide what you want to do next. Like, comment, subscribe. You got a lot of options. That choice is up to you. And we hope you make the right one. So hang along and see what you think.
No pressure, but again,
no pressure.
We need you.
I'll be disappointed.
We're begging. We need you. We're trying to, grow in the fantasy space, and we can't do it without all of you. We like to call you all the mean team. So if you feel like you want to join the team, feel free, hit the subscribe button, like this video, drop the comments in below. All right, Aiden, I have a bit of a flag plant here at wide receiver 1. I guess it's not too big of a flag plant. He's ECR's wide receiver 3, but I've always been a Jamar guy through and through. I don't have any exposure to him this year. It's the first time since he's been in the league. I don't have a Jamar share on redraft teams, but man, this is about as juicy as a matchup you're going to get for Jamar Chase. So I'm going to go through the top 5 wide receivers here in week 3. It's a little bit different. Tyreek Hill with the whole Skylar Thompson situation isn't here. Cooper Kupp isn't here. So it's a little interesting seeing week 3's wide receiver rankings. So I'm going to start with the first tier. I've got the top 5. Wide receiver 1, I've got Jamar Chase. Wide receiver 2, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Wide receiver 3, CeeDee Lamb. 4, Justin Jefferson, and 5, Nico Collins. I'll take a quick pause. These are PPR rankings, by the way. So we've had people ask before. These are PPR rankings. And if you are looking at this spreadsheet, I promise I've seen the light of day. But essentially what you're going to take a look here is on the very left, this is my rank. You're going to see ECR. You're going to see the difference versus ECR. And then I have broken down some key stats I like to look at. I have fantasy points per game and expected fantasy points per game. And I essentially have a metric called efficiency, which is how well is a player doing or receiver doing with their usage, with their fantasy points. If they're in the green, that's good. They're efficient. If they're red, they're either not good or they're due for some progression. So we'll dive into that a little bit. I'm going to start things off here with a guy that I have 2 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. That's Jamar Chase. I alluded to it at the top. Slow start to the year, but this is a blow-up spot of all blow-up spots. Squeaky wheel game, get right game. Bengals are 0-2. This is a secondary that's just gotten absolutely gashed. Malik Nabers just had a huge spike week. I think T. Higgins is back, which is good. You can't double cover Jamar when T's out there. And I don't think it really matters. You could double him with the secondary and he's still going to hit home. I think Joe's going to air it out. This is a great spot for them. So Jamar feels like an easy pick to be a wide receiver 1. Downgraded CeeDee Lamb, ankle injury. I don't know how serious it is, but we always have to be cognizant of an injury report pop up during the week with an ankle injury. That does sometimes impact overall performance. You have to keep in mind that they're dealing with an injury. And then another guy that I have a stand on is Nico Collins. I've got Nico Collins up 2 spots ahead of ECR at wide receiver 5 here. Just height, weight, speed, man. The guy's just dunking on efficiency. 22 fantasy points per game with the pretty solid usage, 14.2 expected fantasy points per game, but he's scoring 8 more fantasy points per game than his usage would suggest. I don't see that slowing down. Nico just dunks. He's just a dunker, man. I don't know. I didn't have him getting this good this quickly on my bingo card because we were big Nico backers, but man, what he's doing right now is he's like top 5 wide receiver stuff for Nico Collins. So I'll pause here. This is my top 5. Curious to know your thoughts on how I have this ordered. Any call-outs before we get to tier 2?
Yeah. So crazy enough, you've already got them higher than ECR or at least Nico, but I think my 1 and 2 would be Nico and Jettas. These 2 guys have been nuts out of the gates. I was just looking at Nico's stat line, weeks 1 and 2, man. He's averaging 120 yards, 7 catches a game. Both of these guys are receiving over, a quarter of their team's targets, over a third of the team's first read percentage. these guys have been awesome in week 1 and 2. I think like I'm still a little confused what's going on in Cincinnati. I think the passing game's been confusing to say the least in terms of like what we're seeing. Like maybe it's because T's not there. Maybe it's tough matchups. I'm a little confused. Even CeeDee, like, minus the 60-yard tutty, like it's been fine. But also 2 kind of weird game scripts. Whereas Jettas and Nico out of the gates, have been the 2 best guys out of like your alpha round 1 and round 2 receivers. So, but again, like we're just nitpicking. Top 5 guys. These are all ballers. Those are probably my 1 and 2 though. With like, I think I would go Nico 1. Like until someone slows down Nico. Like Nico is an absolute. He's wide receiver 2 right now. Like absolute man on fire. Him and CJ are just like cannot stop.
I have to be careful with this because I know it sounds crazy, and the way he's moving on screen is like Julio-esque. I'm being very cognizant.
The size and the speed. The size and the speed is nuts.
It's insane. It's kind of crazy to watch him right now. It's unbelievable.
I think I saw something like he's been the fastest ball carrier in the NFL this year.
Oh my god!
At 6'4"? No, dude. Like get
6'4",
the fuck out of here. Yeah,
220. I think he's 215. Like he's just giant. He's like
his
a power
injuries
forward.
seem minor. I think it's just like
management.
A little sore. Yeah, just a little sore. Like he was limited today. I'd assume he logs another one just to he's neat. Like they know what he is. Like you don't need to like have him practicing and getting banged up more. It's fine. It's the NFL season.
He's the alpha of the alpha. Clearly emerged. We banked on it at the beginning of the year, but I mean that's happened. That's happened. He is banged up a lot though, so I'm curious to know this. I think he landed on the he DNP'd with a hip and a foot. He got a limited today. Sounds like he's playing. Sounds like management, but it's always something to keep cognizant of. If he does have kind of a down week, maybe those injuries are a real thing. So just something to keep in mind. Still very high on Nico this week, 2 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. I love putting him at 1 though. That's amazing. A Nico guy through and through, and he's a dome bro this week. So
and he's a dome bro. Yeah,
and he's a dome bro. Inside,
we're Nico guys. Like we've been all over Nico, so it's really not all that surprising. But like the level is still fucking nuts if you look at it.
My most rostered wide receiver in Dynasty is Nico Collins. Okay, so moving on to the next group of guys here, wide receivers 6 through 12. I've got Garrett Wilson, who played tonight. Decent performance, as we've highlighted. Wide receiver 7, Rashee Rice. 8, Davante Adams. 9, Marvin Harrison. 10, DeVonta Smith. 11, Chris Olave. And 12, Tyreek Hill. Interesting tier here. I have Rice down 2 spots ahead of ECR. Nothing against Rice. I just wanted to move Nico up. It's just kind of how I approached it. And love Rashee. Top 5 status is we're getting a little ahead of ourselves there. I firmly in the top 12 for Rashee, but top 5 is a little. Well, let's see how this plays out with this whole running back situation, how they pass if Kelsey gets involved. I think it'll be interesting to watch the Chiefs offense operate. The main guy I wanted to call in this tier is DeVonta Smith. I've got him 4 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. He is currently the wide receiver 10 in my rankings, wide receiver 14 in ECR, 18 fantasy points per game with 16 fantasy points per game expected usage. Man, he's got a pretty good matchup against New Orleans. I think Marshawn Lattimore's back, so he may get the shadow coverage from Lattimore, but they're going to put Smitty in the slot. I don't know if it's going to matter. Like the usage is just so good. It's so good without AGB. It's like so dependable with Smitty, and man, they're playing indoors. I think this is in New Orleans. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, in New Orleans, in the dome. In the dome. So yeah, I'm all on Smitty this week. Tyreek Hill downgrade. Interesting matchup against Seattle. Good corners, bad quarterback play potentially with Skylar Thompson. Chris Olave is in kind of a smash spot. This could be the week that Olave finally breaks out and lives up to his draft pedigree this season. But I'll stop here at this tier. Anyone speaking your language before we get to tier 3, Aiden?
Yeah, I think like there's 2 guys I'm really excited about here. Marvin Harrison, first guy to call out here. Welcome to the show, dude. That was awesome. Just like absolutely shut everyone up last week. Just what a beautiful showing from him. You'd like to see like more consistent targets throughout the game. Like, kind of had the huge pop plays early on the first 2. And then like
they blew him out.
There was kind of, at that point, they just blew him out. But great matchup against Detroit here. In a dome, 3rd worst team so far through 2 weeks in terms of giving up points against wide receivers. And Kyler Murray is, looking like a top 3, like fantasy QB at this point in the season. So really excited there. And then you highlighted Smitty too. As long as AJ Brown, it's wheels up. Like we're looking at probably like 10 targets weekly going forward. And like the route running is just filthy with him. So love both of those guys. Really like where they're at. Smitty getting moved up there. Like I would start Smitty over Olave for sure this year. Or not this year, this week. I really like that one.
They're both great plays. I think that game's
Yeah.
going to be a shootout.
I agree, which would be awesome.
It's a big game for Philly. New Orleans is 2-0. I think that made one of my favorite games on the slate this week. Eagles Saints. Next tier guys here. I moved Aiyuk all the way up to wide receiver 13. Very slow start to the year for Aiyuk, averaging 6.6 fantasy points per game. But this is a cheddar matchup against a bad Rams secondary, injured Rams defense.
Terrible.
George Kittle surprised DNP with a hamstring. Debo's out. I mean, this is looking at like 10, 12 targets for Aiyuk. It's like the ultimate Aiyuk get-right game. If he can't do it this week, I'm a little nervous, but I think he easily clears and has a great performance in fantasy. I've got him 3 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. I'm a little down on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass catchers this week. Denver has proved to be pretty good against wide receivers. Mike Evans is going to get the Pat Surtain coverage, so I'm down on him a little bit. And then Godwin has just been feasting. We'll see. He's been probably one of the more efficient players in all of fantasy, averaging 23 fantasy points per game on 13 expected fantasy points. So he's dunking, which we love to see Chris Godwin do. But I think wide receiver 12 is a little rich for my blood, even for the Rod God right now. I think both of them being good, solid, high-end wide receiver 2s makes sense for me this week. I'm kind of down on Nabers, but not really. Like, it's just, I have questions about Daniel Jones against this Cleveland defense. Like, that seems like kind of nightmare fuel for just tons of turnovers. It doesn't sound great for DJ. And DK Metcalf, I think he's on the verge of really proving some people wrong and having a monster year. Looked amazing in week 2 against the Patriots. I think we could see another big week, but I'm going to wait before I get him really aggressive up in the rankings. I want to see him do it in back-to-back weeks. And then someone I want to call out again is Zay Flowers. Some of the best usage in all of fantasy. Has 23.4 expected fantasy points per game, averaging 16.6. This is going to be a great blow-up game. I think this is the second favorite game on the slate for me, Ravens, Cowboys. I think just really up in pace. I want all the pass catchers in this one. So that's really it. I like these guys in these tier. I moved a couple guys down. Any thoughts on these guys before we get here to tier 4?
Yeah, I just want to get into like 3 quick hitters. Love the Aiyuk ranking. I think like you absolutely have to, given the matchup. No Debo, no CMC. Kittle's trending towards probably not playing if I had to guess. He's done nothing this year,
Nothing.
4.8, 7.3. This feels like an awesome, like, welcome back Brandon Aiyuk spot. I think you make a great call up with Zay Flowers too. Like, the usage is amazing. I still dunk on him for the ADOT, but like, if you're getting 10 targets on a weekly basis, like, you got to be up here. That's pretty firm wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 usage. And then Nabers. I'm excited to see what we get. Like, do we get a non-core? Holy shit. Like, I don't think you're going to get 18 targets every week, but like, he's the only talented person in that offense. Like, they're going to find ways to feed him.
Don't disrespect Devin Singletary. Come on.
No,
can't disrespect Turbo or
I
Speed. What do they call it? His name's Speed.
I thought you were going to say Scam Dell. I was like, do not come.
No, you can disrespect Scam Dell.
So I'm really curious to see how we get, wide receiver 3 finish last week. It's pretty cool to see him and Marv in the top 3 this early in the season. So I think Marv is going to do well, but I'm really excited to see the Nabers encore, see kind of what can we expect on a weekly basis, because that's probably not sustainable. What level of play is more, his weekly output.
In terms of the RTM score, absolutely love Nabers and Flowers. I have to be cognizant that they have Nabers as the third. This score has him as the third best play this week based off of his usage and his matchup.
We're still building the model.
Yeah, we're still building it, but they love Flowers and they love I say they. This formula I created loves Flowers and loves Nabers.
It's not us. It's the computer.
It's a weighted, proprietary model that it's just a formula I made. But they really love, it really loves Nabers and Flowers. I think it's because the usage has just been so good and the matchups are relatively good, but you got to take game context into play here. And I'm worried about Nabers against the Browns, just this game getting out of hand. Next tier, guys, here. This is a big tier. Wide receivers 19 to 29. I'll rip them off real quick. Jameson Williams at 19, DJ Moore at 20, Rashid Shaheed at 21, Steph Diggs 22, Drake London 23, JSN 24, Tank Dell 25, George Pickens 26, Calvin Ridley 27, Jaylen Waddle 28, Amari Cooper 29. We're probably going to stay in this tier for a little bit because I think there are a lot of guys here that people are debating whether to start or not.
Totally.
And I have some stances here on ECR. So I'm going to start here first with Jameson Williams. I'm up 3 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. Elite matchup, elite usage. Jamo's just in set it and forget it flex territory for me at this point. And I think ECR is taking a while to catch up, but his usage has been so good through 2 weeks. I know Laporta's lurking and Laporta will probably have a big game soon, but I mean, Williams has kind of took Laporta's lunch through 2 weeks. Like that, I think that'd be kind of,
it's kind of crazy. Yeah, no, like there's no other way to put
nuts.
it.
Yeah.
He's been a total non-factor in that offense. He's the number 2 option through 2 weeks, which is, I didn't see that coming.
DJ Moore, a little bit lower this week. The Colts are just a run funnel, and this pass game's been a mess so far through 2 weeks. Even though Caleb's tape in the first half of that game was actually pretty good, doing a lot at the line of scrimmage, a lot of ball knowers are really happy with Caleb through 2 games, even though it hasn't been there yet. Yeah. Maybe this is his spot where he gets right and looks like the phenom that we know he can be. But until then, I'm a little reticent on DJ Moore. The vibes have been kind of weird on Sunday Night Football. Any thoughts on DJM? Like, what was that? Do you think people are overblowing it?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty high on him this week. I know you mentioned like they've been awful against the run in terms of like yards per game, but like Colts have been like the 5th worst team against wide receivers as well.
Their defense sucks.
Defoe just got put on the IR. Like they pretty much have no pass rushers. Like Houston was able to like make their life a living hell because like they've got dudes up front. Like that front 7 is JV compared to what like they just saw on Sunday Night Football. So I actually love this as a get right spot for him. Okay. I think this offense is going to find some rhythm here. He's still, fringe wide receiver too. So, like that's probably fine. Like, do I see like
wide
a
receiver too,
top
sure.
5 output?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Keenan's out. It's possible. So I actually like DJ in a bounce back spot here. I think it's a really good matchup and it's in a dome. It's in a dome as well.
Yeah, another game in a dome. Rashid, Shaheed. We've highlighted Olave. We've highlighted Smitty. Yep. I've got Shaheed 9 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. 180 yards and 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks, averaging 18 fantasy points per game, doubling up his usage essentially. 9 points over expected. You'd expect that with somebody as efficient as Shaheed. Is he going to score 50-yard touchdowns every week, Aiden? Probably not. Am I going to move him up regardless? Hell yeah, I am. I'm not moving him down. Not until he face plants. This offense is humming.
The model says so.
And the Eagles' defense isn't good. So the combination of this offense being in a get right and their defense good, I like Shaheed. Even though I think Olave really does pop this week, I still want to be in on Shaheed, have him in my lineups. Another guy I'm into this week is JSN. I've got him at 3 or 4 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. The week 2 usage was incredibly tasty. I am scared the minute I move him up the ranks because I had him at like 50 last week because I was pissed at him. I was a little too emotional about JSN. I was like, get to the bottom of the rankings, pal. But man,
it was amazing.
Targets.
No, it was amazing. It's finally what like the offense finally was condensed to DK and JSN. It's what we've wanted all year. Week 1 was a scare. Lockett had 2 targets this last week. This is the offense we need going forward. Is these 2 guys getting absolutely funneled with the target? So this was a guy that I wanted to talk to about also, but you nailed on it. Like I'm excited to see, what can we expect? Like it's another encore game for me because last week was amazing.
Tank Dell, I promise people it's coming. Nico's just kind of taken over, but Dell's just missed on some huge plays. Like he's could have caught like a 50-yard touchdown last week. So I feel like the Tank Dell explosion game is coming. So I'd still keep him in the lineup, people. Don't give up the hope. I know this sounds crazy, but George Pickens had like 5 fantasy points last week. I swear it was the most dominant 5 fantasy points I've ever seen someone put up. Like multiple plays were called back, but he genuinely made Pat Surtain look silly. Like multiple DPIs. It was crazy how good. It's nuts how good Pickens looks. I know it hasn't really been there yet this year. He had multiple touchdowns called back, but dude, he looks ridiculously good just as like a pure talent. I don't know if he ever hits home because of this weird ass offense they play and their strength of schedule is so weak. But dude, he looks really good. I don't know. You have any thoughts on Pickens and how to approach him?
Yeah, it's like you kind of mentioned it through 2 weeks. Like you've seen the plays he made. Like so many plays have gotten called back.
It's weird.
Justin Fields is dropping absolute dimes down the field on him, but it's like a little push off here, a little, it's like things have been getting called back.
Like a hold away from the play.
It's very clear that they're going to like continue to take these shots downfield, and like he's one of the best like contested catch guys in the league. So I like him here. Like I think an explosion is potentially coming. Like, it's hard to expect that in the Steelers offense, but he's another guy that's like one play away. Like we've seen him. Like, he's a slant to the house type of guy. He's a deep ball guy. So no, I like him as well.
I have Calvin Ridley way up. Ridley is the expert consensus rankings 33. I've got him at 27, 6 spots ahead of ECR. Promising usage, man. Like really promising usage. He's been pretty good. He's looked fast. They get him around on end arounds and he's scoring rushing touchdowns. It's a good matchup. Green Bay, I think, will do fine against this offense. Is probably kind of a good streamer in fantasy this week because Levis is just a chaos machine. But I like Ridley. Ridley's playing really well. So I think he should be in your lineup as a fringe wide receiver too. And then Jaylen Waddle, I'm going to downgrade with Skylar Thompson. And Amari Cooper. At some point, Cooper is going to turn these expected fantasy points into points, right? Because it's like Cortland Sutton levels of bad. He's averaging 4 fantasy points per game with top 15 usage. He's minus 12.4 fantasy points per game against expected. Deep red in our efficiency column here.
I was going to weigh in on Cooper. Part of it is Deshaun, but like he's also had some bad drops too. Like it's a combination of the two. Another thing I just wanted to flag here is like I don't trust Stephon Diggs or Tank Dell at this point. Like until one of them kind of shows it. I know Diggs had 2 touchdowns week 1, but in terms of like the usage, the targets, like the consistency in that offense, like it's a Nico funnel right now. I'm likely benching Dell in a league. I don't own any Diggs, but I wouldn't feel all that great about what I've seen so far through 2 weeks. So it's Houston 2A and 2B are I don't know. If you've got better options, I would knock it all for benching them until we see more from them.
Minnesota made Brock Purdy kind of confused with everything they were doing because Flores is a really good DC.
Oh, really good.
I think CJ is going to be ready for it.
CJ, he's so smart. Like he processes things at just like light speed. Nice. It's pretty ridiculous.
And the arm talent is absurd for CJ Stroud. So I like all the pass catchers in this one, but I get it. You have Nico at 1, right? So you have to knock those guys down. If like that's
like like if you look at like the production from Nico versus it's like 300 yards versus I don't think they've totaled 100 between the two of them. Let me see, 70, just over it. They're at like 105 yards collectively between the two of them versus like 260, like 270.
Yeah, and in terms of usage, Diggs 11.2 expected fantasy points, Tank Dell 11.3. So they're pretty even.
Yeah, pretty similar.
Diggs has just had the 2 touchdowns so far. So
yeah, exactly.
So something to keep in mind. Next tier, guys, that I've got here, kind of a weird tier, but it's all kind of younger guys, and then Demarcus Robinson. I guess DJ and Pittman, but like it's just kind of random tier. Wide receivers 30 through 39, all guys that I think are still startable to a degree. Xavier Worthy at 30, Terry McLaurin at 31, Brian Thomas 32, Khalil Shakir 33, Jaden Reed 34, Demarcus Robinson 35, Deontay Johnson 36, Michael Pittman 37, Christian Kirk 38, Tiggins 39. And Alec Pierce 40. Oh yeah, I actually do think we're gonna get 55 here. Look at that.
Dang it! I missed those.
We're getting some BOGOs here. So I'll start just off the top with Xavier Worthy. Don't have an opinion yet. The target share has been pretty mid so far, but do we see an uptick in usage? Whether it be end arounds, whether it be bubble screens, whether it just be overall share of the pie with Isaiah Pacheco out? Like that's a question that I have. Like, do we see the Worthy usage jump? Is something that I'm definitely interested in seeing play out. Other than that, Brian Thomas is legit, but this is a pretty tough matchup against Buffalo. Khalil Shakir is the wide receiver 1 right now in Buffalo. It's just James Cook, Josh Allen, and Khalil Shakir right now. Just how we drew it up. Jaden Reed, is Jordan Love going to play? Because if so, you got to move him up.
That's smart.
You got to move him up if he does. I don't know. He's practicing.
I call bullshit. He's not playing this week.
He probably shouldn't.
It'd be malpractice. Smart, it's malpractice.
Hold him out for 2 weeks.
Come on. You can't
hold him out for 2 weeks. Still probably would play Reed. They got him involved as a rusher in week 2. They're just going to keep scheming up the ball to him. Like he's just such an important part of their offense.
Can't sit Jaden.
Demarcus Robinson. So I've got Demarcus Robinson against ECR. I've got him 3 spots up. Charvarius Ward didn't practice today. Another hamstring casualty that wasn't as reported as the George Kittle issue.
You're kidding.
Niners offense is banged up. I think this game's going to be closer than expected. The Rams are playing for their season. this is just the injured bowl. It's the IR bowl. I think D-Rob could easily clear like 12 PPR fantasy points. Like his usage is good. The RTM score is good. I think he's a good play this week, especially over some of these other guys. Like Deontay, I'm ready to get hurt again with the red rifle. Hope springs eternal for Deontay Johnson managers now that quickly Bryce Young got the boot. And then I'm really down on Michael Pittman. Like really down. Minus 17 spots on Pittman. I don't know, man. He's got the same usage as Alec Pierce, and he's averaging 6 fantasy points per game. And Pierce is averaging 19. So probably regression is coming for both of them, right? But at the same time, it's still 12 fantasy points per game. Like it's nothing crazy. AR is like, he's spraying half of his passes, and this is kind of like a ball possession receiver. Like it kind of makes sense that Pierce works better for AR's game. So I'm high on Pierce and kind of low on Pittman. I'll pause here on this tier. Any thoughts? There's kind of like a lot of characters in this tier.
Yeah, I think like 2 guys I'm just like interested to see what happens is the two Jacksonville guys. I think Brian Thomas has been a lot better than I expected personally. This was a guy that I thought was going to be like the pretty clear number 3 in that offense. Obviously Ingram's hurt. Trevor's been kind of awful. I wouldn't say this is
kind of.
Yeah, it's putting it nicely. Like I think Trevor finds his footing, and I'd like to see like a good Trevor game. How this split looks between Kirk and BTJ. As I was so high on Kirk going into this year, and it's been like duds, like complete duds. Like he really should be benched at this point until he deserves to get back in it. How do you see that shaking out in Jacksonville? Because it's been pretty rough.
It's not a great matchup.
I know
against the Bills,
but like
you have to think with Evan Ingram hurt.
Yeah,
you have to think Christian Kirk's going to get busy. Like
that's what I thought last week.
But it's the Monday night game, I think, because there's 2 of them.
Yeah,
they're going to have a whole week to prepare plus an extra day. They're 0-2. Like they kind of have to win this game. You have to imagine that Christian Kirk gets involved. I'm not moving him up the ranks. I'm actually down 4 spots against ECR.
Yeah, no,
but like
which makes sense, dude. It's been really dark for him. I think he has 2
I'm playing
catches,
him against
right?
you.
He has,
I'm playing him against you.
God bless you, man.
I have to.
Think I have to. Yeah, he has 2 catches for 29 yards thus far this year. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, I have to play him against you.
Yeah.
So
I think you make a good point with the Indianapolis pass catchers too. Yeah, well, one, it's just a tough matchup. Bears secondary is pretty strong. AR is kind of just like, a bad decision waiting to happen against that secondary. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he turns the ball over 2 or 3 times. Personally, this game, and the accuracy too has just been kind of dicey with the shorter intermediate
it's
stuff.
So much variance.
Yeah,
it's just so much. He could go. If you told me he scored 35 points against the Bears, I would not. If you told me he scores 9, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah,
like
I'm considering sitting him in a league.
He's
for
just such a. He's just like, I don't think he's raw. No, he is raw. Like he's just raw. Like
he's played
18 games and then 19 games now.
But 6 NFL games.
Yeah.
Go
like in 4 full ones.
Yeah, it's like he's still in the first half of his rookie season. If you really like want to break it down, and it's like just be patient with him. But again, it's a tough matchup, so we'll see. You'd like to see him get some Pittman chemistry. It's like the short and intermediate stuff really is not his strength, so it's like we'll see how that develops. As I'm sure he is going to get better.
I do like the Colts better at home, and they are indoors at home. I do like the Colts at home. Not necessarily to win the game. I just think their offense will look better. And if you look at their
the vibes were much better week 1. Much better week 1.
Dude, if you look at their first down percentage, like what they do on first down, it's nuts. They like have like a 60% success rate. Like they're just dialed on first down.
Interesting.
And if they just keep the chains moving, I think they'll be good. But
we'll see.
You got to keep playing Pittman. I'm playing him in a dynasty league, but I'm just down until like.
If you drafted Pittman in, because you drafted him in the 2nd round, maybe like
I think he was like a third guy, yeah, like third, 4th round guy.
You probably have to play him, especially with all the injuries. Like I doubt you have a much safer option. So that's a good call out.
Tier 5 here, I got Ladd McConkey at 40, Cortland Sutton 41, Rome Odunze 42, Tyler Lockett 43, Brandon Cooks 44, Quentin Johnston 45, Jacoby Myers 46, and Jerry Jeudy 47. Just quickly here, Cortland Sutton has been one of the least efficient players through 2 weeks. Positive regression should be coming. I mean, he's one of the top expected fantasy points per game usage of any receiver in the league right now, and he's averaging 5 fantasy points per game. So maybe he breaks into the double digits this week. But man, Bo Nix doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. Just I'll leave it at that right now. We'll see. Yeah. It's early, but Roma Dunze, his dad's active on the bird, getting open, and he's not mad at Caleb. He's mad at Dan Orlovsky. He's made it clear.
Yeah, he's mad at Orlovsky. He quoted it. I was like, hey, I'll get here. This is for Dan.
Maybe the squeaky wheel emerges. Indy's got a bad secondary. This, no Keenan Allen probably, 2 DMPs. So maybe Dunze has a good week. For Brandon Cooks, I just have Cooks or Tolbert. I don't know who it's going to be. Probably one of them will be good. One of these guys will start popping up more consistently in the rankings once we know Cooks or Tolbert. I've got QJ up 7 spots ahead of expert consensus rankings. The wide receiver one with the Chargers, but it's a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. If you have the testicular fortitude to play him this week against the Steelers, because that's just going to be that game's going to be over in like an hour and a half. It is going to be.
It is going to. They're both just going to pound the absolute.
Establish it. It's going to be a punt fest. Football. It's going to be 12-9. It's going to be just how football's meant to be played.
That's an under.
And then I've got Jerry Jeudy. I've got Jerry Jeudy down, but I just have a note, and I have a lot of these guys are down against ECR. Just surprisingly good usage for Jeudy. If you drafted him, you got to be kind of happy. And if they make that move to Jameis, I think Jeudy could be a fun weekly flex play, especially if you have a double flex situation.
We need Jameis so bad for that passing attack.
Massage Man was better in week 2, but as
better,
a rusher, not really as a thrower. And Jackson was a joke.
I don't want to watch him and have to cheer for him. I just feel dirty.
Anything on this tier before we go to the last tier here?
Yeah, I think I prefer QJ over Ladd, but yeah, the matchup's hard in general. Kind of hard to get behind.
You're right. I'm flipping QJ and Ladd.
I think QJ's got to be ahead of Ladd personally. You just look at the first read percentage and whatnot. And then, it's just back to Chicago. If we're assuming Keenan's not playing, and let's say this offense, gets right, and Caleb throws for, call it 250, Rome's going to be involved. It should be a funnel between him, DJ, and Cole Kmet if Shane Waldron gets his head out of his ass. Those should be the 3 guys, that, funnel the bulk of those targets.
Last tier of guys, I've got wide receivers 48 to 54. I mean, these numbers are just a mess. I don't even know what's going. Wide receiver 49, Keon Coleman. Wide receiver 50, Nook Hopkins. 51, Greg Dortch. 52, Bateman. 53, Yoshivas. 54, Romeo Dobbs. Okay, so if T. Higgins doesn't play, Yoshivas is definitely worth playing. Yeah, the model absolutely loves Yoshivas. Usage and production have been there. Not amazing, but definitely there. And this matchup is cake. I'd be kind of happy to play. Come on, Sean. I'd be happy to play Yoshi in that matchup. Greg Dortch. Slot receivers have torched this Detroit defense. It's probably going to be Trey McBride. It's probably the big Trey McBride blow-up week, if I had to pick one. But the Dortcher Chamber could be on the menu, especially if we're playing DFS. He could be a fun play against Detroit this week. And I like Bateman. I'm high on everyone in this matchup. Bateman's been fine. I wish they threw him the ball more. He's open.
Same.
He's open. He might just need a new team, but he's open, man.
It feels
he's got good separation. So anyone in this tier speaking your language?
Yeah, one guy I just want to call out. I think you should keep an eye on is Hopkins. He's still ramping up. You look, 27% snaps in week 1, 44% snaps in week 2. I figure that number to climb to around 60, 70% this week, which only bodes well for both him and Calvin Ridley. I think, Will Levis is going to, keep airing it out and making crazy passes. But this is a guy that we highlighted. We knew it'd probably be slow out of the gate with the knee injury, but I think Hopkins, could easily outperform this ADP here or not ADP, his weekly ranking at 50.
His ADP, he's got summer draft, baby. He's got redraft in his brain.
Yeah, my brain is melted. But if he ended up being wide receiver 30, wide receiver 25 on the week, it would surprise me one bit. This guy's still got it. It's just a matter of getting his legs back under him.
Is it 54, 55? We might even have 56. I don't know. We ranked a lot of them, guys. We talked a lot of receivers on this episode. I don't know, man. Who do you think is going to be the biggest surprise out of this list? Good or bad?
Good or bad?
Yeah.
Biggest surprise. I'm just kind of going through it and seeing like who could go nuts or who could totally fall on their face. I could see another Chase face plant a little bit if T. Higgins comes back. I don't know.
Nightmare.
The vibes are just bad in Cincy. Like the vibes are bad there. And then I think I could see one of the Houston guys exploding outside of Nico, especially like if there is actually anything serious going on. Like if Tank Dell or Steph Diggs just went like absolutely nuts this week and we're like a top 5 wide receiver, that wouldn't totally shock me either.
Yeah, Vikings Texans is a great game. I'm super pumped to watch that one.
I'll have that one up on my screen, and that one's not getting changed.
Lions Cardinals is going to be a great one.
That's not
Saints
getting changed
Eagles.
Either.
Yeah, Saints Eagles.
Yeah.
Those. I know Niners Rams is going to be nasty because of the injuries, but points are going to be scored in that one. Playing it indoors too. So
what time's that one? That's got to be an afternoon game. Yeah,
afternoon. Yeah,
it's
an afternoon game. But yeah, man. I mean, it's a great slate this week, at least for fantasy.
It really is. The
Green Bay, Tennessee is sneaky.
Exciting,
yeah. Indianapolis, Chicago is sneaky. Like there's some just good players playing bad defenses. So that's what we like to see.
There's a lot of betting lines like right around 3 points, which is awesome. Like a lot of close, like what should be on paper, like close football games this week, which is what we want, keeps games close, keep teams thrown. That's what we want with our wide receivers.
The guy that I'm really interested in is Worthy this week.
No.
Sunday Night Football. Pacheco's hurt. They didn't really get him involved in week 2. Low target share. He's done a good job creating space, like as a vertical threat for Rashee underneath. But I think they need to start getting Worthy going. And this is a good spot. It's a good spot. Like I think the Falcons, you can throw on them a bit. So
I agree.
We'll see, man. But this is a ton of blast. This is a ton of blast. Oh my goodness. This was a blast, a ton of fun. Appreciate you always for joining. If anyone here has any questions, feel free, drop them in comments below. As always, the rankings are in the notes of this episode. I let you guys hang in on running backs, but I added those in. You can go reference them now. Aiden, anything to say to the mean team before we get out of here?
I got nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah, sit down. Enjoy another lovely week of football, man. Don't take it for granted. We only get 18 weeks.
Really don't.
We only get 18 plus playoffs. We're already at 3.
Almost makes you forget that we're going to die someday. Almost. But
for now, I'm sweating whether I'm starting JSN or Tank Dell or some bullshit like that. So this is what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, baby. All right, Aiden. Thank you for joining. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time.